Well, it's Sunday, and don't forget tonight on the Beyond Room 313 channel, I will be hosting Hocus Focus with Sarah Mondaini. We've got a very good show tonight, and it's also pertinent. A lot of what I'll be talking about tonight will be pertinent to what I'm talking about here today. Help you understand things a bit better. Now, this new sort of trajectory that my videos are on regarding the collapsing wave function and how to escape it back to the world we lived in, on an energetic level before September, that ended on September 10th, 2001, when the world was an extremely different place than it was on September 12th, 2001. And what that means and why that world is ending, it's so important right now. People have asked me about that Nicola Bulley story, Booley, or whatever his name is pronounced, in England, the woman that went missing. And I'm not interested in this so much in the specifics of the case, but in the actual meaning of it, what it's telling us about this collapsing wave function. This is probably a long video, so make yourself comfortable for this one. So, the underlying thesis that I'm presenting is that the shock of the events that happened in Lower Manhattan on September 11, 2001, were live broadcasted around the world as an unbelievable snuff movie in real time, damaged and crashed the human psyche as a whole. As billions of people were pouring their energy into it at the same time. I've done talks about this on AV, and I've spoken about this a number of times over the years. And now I can actually get the point where I can predict how it's ending, that we are coming out of that world. Now, last night I began an operation where I got people to watch the news broadcast from Eyewitness News Channel 7, I think it was, in New York on September 10th, the night before. And my God, when you watch that, what a different world that was that we have now. It was a more genteel, innocent, kinder world. There was a dignity of kindness in it. The news was reporting the news. It wasn't attacking your consciousness. It wasn't declaring war upon you. And as people, you watched that date, September 10th, on the Eyewitness News, and it might as well be 1985, and you realised just how much was actually destroyed the following day in terms of human consciousness and the trajectory of human existence. It gave birth to a wave function that in allegorical and possibly literal terms, opened up a portal that allowed the demonic energies, the evil energies, the predatory energies of the cosmos to come true and prey upon humanity in the form of what we call now globalization. And this thing had its final lick of us a few months ago and vanished, but we're not out of it yet. We're getting there. We're not out of it yet. Now, so I've been telling people to watch that video. I'll put a link below to it on this video, to not think about the event that happened the next day, but to absorb themselves into that world of the broadcast. Feel that. See, nostalgia is made fun of because nostalgia is very powerful. It carries a tremendous charge with it. You know, for instance, like you could be walking by the street one day and a woman passes you she's wearing a perfume of the girl that you first kissed in high school 25, 30, 40 years ago, and you're transported back in time to that moment. Or you hear a song on the radio and you remember a friend that died years ago as if they're still alive. That's a phenomenal charge. That's not a silly thing. That's literally a space-time construct that's actually being played upon in order to bring you back, literally your consciousness back to that time. And this is what we're going to do. Now, first of all, some of you are still hung up on the Christian mindset that we're going to get a wonderful world at the end of this, that we're going to achieve utopia. There is no such thing as a utopia. There's no such thing as a perfect world. We live in a yin and yang light and shadow universe that are internally in conflicts through these dualities. But the thing is that at some points in history, it's much better than others. And we're coming out of a bad one. Now, so don't have this idea that one day you're going to wake up with this revelations, this, that this second coming thing, that one day a sky fairy or something else, UFOs are going to come from above, or you're going to get revenge. Remember, this is not about revenge. This is about recovery. This is about getting ourselves back, returning to who we were meant to be as human beings. And we're getting there. It's working. And so don't get this. This is not a crusade to bring in utopia. We're not lefties. We're not commies. We're not Abrahamics. We're a tribe that understands the fluctuations of the dynamics of the universe and the archetypal forces that govern our perception of it. And by utilizing, using, capitalizing, and taking advantage of these, we can make our lives very, very nice. So it's irrelevant what happens to the rest of the world. This is for the tribes. This is for us. This is for me personally. I'm sharing it with you. You can do it whatever you want. But this is personal. This is for us, okay? This is to give us the life we deserve, the life that we should have had, that was stolen from us by that event in Lower Manhattan on that date in September 11, 2001. And that's not to say it was all bad ever since then. I'm just saying the world has been going the wrong direction. Now, basically, the way I would describe it was that the world became similar to a borderline female. And it's acting like that right now. When you are in a relationship or a friendship or you're involved with a borderline and they're losing their grip of you, they think you've abandoned them or abandoning them, they attack you, they assault you. Now, they give you a test beforehand to see if you are going to play their game. They try to groom you one last time. And smart guys and intelligent guys say, I'm not a fucking simp, I'm out of here. And then that basically means that the borderline female's plan, agenda has exploded and fallen apart. This is why she begins the smear campaign, because she's still trying to hold on to your attention. You may not be in a relationship with her anymore, but she's screaming at you to get you to give her emotional energy. So she begins or pay her attention, because the abandonment phase is horrific for them. So she runs the smear campaign and she grooms her friends into it. And she gets people that had no problem with you to turn them against you. Then she will bring her own children into it. She will burlesque her own seed, her own flesh and blood in order to do this. And it's only about, please pay attention to me. You pay attention to me. You give me the attention you gave me when we were close. You give it to me. I demand it. And it's just attention by any way possible. And the most effective way is a hysterical, wild, insane smear campaign. Well, tribe, that's what's happening to us right now. The test that was given to us was the needlecraft. That was the borderline wicked game they played. They wanted to see if we were simp enough to do that, to fall for that. If we were simp enough to fall for that, okay? And we said no. What we have, we hold, and this is what we die on. And so, for some reason, by not taking the needlecraft, we were declared far right, because that's their most. They're talking about people. That's their most. Within their limited, simplistic consciousness, that to them is the worst thing in the world, But to us, it's like, so what? I don't care. That's not what I am anyway. And so this is the borderline in the borderline aspect of the wave function. See, the wave function is like an egregore. In this case, it was an egregore that created a borderline personality that was full of all this, like you see, like all the PUPs and telling us how they protecting us and loved us. That was all during the Rona. That was all part of the love bombing. They love bombed us. Remember during the beginning of the scamdemic, they love bombed us. They made us believe they were taking care of us. But some of us had life experience. Some of us recognized borderline behavior when we saw it and said, no fucking way. No way. That was the engagement ring. With the dying, collapsing wave function, as a borderline female, it demanded an engagement ring. and it didn't get the engagement ring from us, so it declared a, see, it's all above, as above, so below stuff. It declared a smear campaign upon us, and the smear campaign upon us, the refuseniks, was horrific when you look back on it. Horrific. And a borderline woman will create dossiers of the people who are still your friends. A borderline woman will not only go after you, but go after people who stand by you. They will try to get them to, they will find cowardly males to jump ship. Didn't that all happen during the needlecraft? Didn't that all? How many of them were like, "Well, I'm not involved in this, and I'm not going for this," and then rolled up their sleeves? You know them, I know them. Cowards, all the cowards always show up in these situations. The same when as a borderline female is running a smear campaign. The ones who say, "I'm not getting involved," they all end up jumping on her side because they're afraid she's going to turn on them and release their personal information to the world. Because if she's insane enough to burlesque her own children on this, she'll do anything. And so you have cowardice. So cowardice. So you have so a lot of the men who bottled it were cowards. I won't say in every case, because that's not fair, because there are men and women who took the needlecraft out of genuine love for their families, to provide for them, and so on. And I have a tremendous sympathy for them. But they're coming with us on the other side too. They haven't missed a boat because they're aware of what's going on. They could possibly have health problems, but that's irrelevant to what this is about. They'll have a much better chance of survival escaping the wave function. Now, I made this little graph here while I was sitting around, and it'll help explain things a little better. Now, this is the wave function that had been created since 9/11, which is here. That's the big explosion there, right? Now, what is happening on this side as the amplitude of the wave frequency increases, and what's on this side as the amplitude of the wave frequency decreases, so you have the attack and the decay, are mirrored as the same thing. And archetypes and certain things will come to the fore, which are kind of like archetypal reflectors, repeaters, echoes, reverbs of what had happened previously. Okay? So, 2011, right? We had the 9/11. We had the attack on the World Trade Center. Tremendous psychic shock upon the human consciousness, right? So this began the rise of the neocons up here. The neocons towards globalization, which stabled at the top here. And they began with the weapons of mass destruction, phantoms that don't exist. And they declared war upon a country that had nothing to do with it and killed hundreds of thousands of people under the auspices of something that never existed. On the decay part of the function, they brought about their scamdemic, okay, which has killed huge numbers of people through neglect, missing their hospital operations, and we also know needlecraft. The needlecraft is basically the spent uranium ordnances of this war here. So they declared their first war on humanity here with you had the Patriot Act here. You had the Vax Pass here. You see what happens on the amplitude as it increases in the attack repeats itself on the decay. You see? Okay. Now it's stabilized to a plateau at the top between 2008 and 2018. This was a stabilization function, and that's when you had the globalization in control completely, more or less. But during this period here, it was a period where many of us had learned that to struggle against this wave is not how you defeat it. The best way to deal with this is to ride it out until it collapses. And many of us did that. This was a creative period for many of us. This was a period of growth. I mean, I started out in 2008 really, on this, what I'm doing here now, the beginning of it. And you'll find that many of you too as well. And you find that you lost many friends that you had from this period. You gained, I bet you'll find that many friends and relationships you gained between 2002 or 2001 and 2008, they all were gone by this time, right? And you're getting new friends and new comrades and new members of your new tribe here from 2018 on. Okay, now this was a plateau. So it began 2008. You would have lost a lot of friends and gained some new friends. 2018, you would have lost some old friends and gained some new friends. That's like a balancing point, right? And this was the period when globalization was at its max. You had started off with the trilateral commissions, the Bilderbergs, and it ended with the World Economic Forum and all these other things running the world, okay, the way they wanted, using basically climate change as the model, right? Okay, the climate change, right? But reality exists in the background down here, where normal weather just continued on. Now, back to the Nicola Burley case. In 2003, an English girl went missing in Portugal in Playa de Luz called Maddie McCann. She was a blonde English girl, and the vanishing and the circumstances surrounding her missing, not being found, gone, with departure, whatever, became a national headline and obsession with cable TV news and the tabloid newspapers. We followed the wave across from the attack cycle to 2023 on the decay cycle. And what do we have? Nicola Bulley, however you pronounce her name, and an English woman, blonde, who's now an adult. So this is the growth cycle. An adult. Remember, the time wave still exists at the bottom. The one that's the reality time wave. Now, that's not to say Maddie McCann is Nicola Bulley. No, Nicola Bulley is the archetypal trajectory of that story brought back to the final stages of the wave function collapse. So let's look at this. What was this telling us? That between 2001 and 2003, we had the initial period of the attack, the attack of the wave function, the actual growth of the wave function, right? So this tells us now, with this archetypal reflector of the Maddie McCann story, we've 2 years to go. So 2025 will be out of this. And does that mean it's going to end with a massive bang? No, it's going to dissipate. It'll be a dissipation. So, and they're not going to arrest. You see, this is also why the same people who hated. Now, I'll talk about that in a minute. That part you're going to find especially interesting. I don't want to jump the gun right now. So, that's not when this all ends down here. 2 years from now, 2025, doesn't mean you're going to step into utopia. You must kill the Christian within you, kill the Abrahamic, kill the cult member, kill the utopian mentality inside you. No, you'll be fine. We'll have us and the tribes will continue. Will manage to get back what they took from us before September 11, 2001. That you'll see a very similar feeling. A lot of the people in the so-called truth movement and that kind of thing will all vanish, but not because there's anything bad happening, because they got their lives back. They got the world back, and that's a beautiful thing. Okay, now you'll be saying, well, we got to wake up the masses. No, waking up the masses traps you into the wave function. And another thing that traps you in the wave function, especially at this point, is emotionality. Remember, it was emotionality that allowed this wave function to bring up. What's happening now? It's collapsing. Now, so around this time here in 2003 and so on, we had people being killed by chemicals in the Middle East. Palestine, Ohio. Now do you understand? But it's very important you don't go, oh, I'm so upset about what's happening in America, the train crash. Oh, I'm so upset about the price of eggs. Oh, the alien, I'm so upset. This will lock you into this thing, and you will dissipate without achieving the excellence that you are going to recapture on the other personal excellence. Don't be thinking it's utopia now. On the other side, the sense of a satisfying life, the feeling that you had back in those years before 9/11, that you watch, and that's why I'm saying watch that broadcast over and again, and help collapse the wave function, and we'll take lots of good people with us, into the good side, and that's it. That's what's happening here, okay? And you will notice that. Go back to your diaries, go back to your memories, and start thinking about things that happened around 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 2008, I bet you they're all happening again here in different forms. Individuals who appeared here are now appearing over here. You watch that, okay? And this is why that's important. So don't get, but that's very important. You do not get locked into any kind of the false flag. You observe it, you take note of it, you understand its relational context towards what happened on the attack side of the wave, and then you just wait, and they will go back to the abyss. Now, so this is important, okay? This is important. Noticing these parallel archetypal reflections on this side of the decaying wave is helping you collapse the wave function, because you're understanding it's secular in nature. And we're creating on the other side a personal wave function for ourselves. We're not creating a Venus project of the mind or anything like that, but the repeaters are happening. Now, as the thing on this is why they got everyone on this. This is why we had a stabilization function between 2008 and 2018, right? But because it's a wave, right? You can't hold that. You can't hold you can't hold the cycle, right? This part is called the cycle. You can't hold a cycle of a wave forever. It collapses. So it collapsed in 2018, leading towards the scamdemic and the needlecraft. But also the woke. That's why, listen to me carefully, the woke on this side are the neocons on that side, right? You say, they're diametrically opposite, you think, right? But no, all the wokes and progressives are all praising who? George Bush Jr. Why? Because he's not Donald Trump. Loads of people who hated George Bush over here are now going, oh, wasn't he great on Ellen? He's not so bad. I like George Bush Jr. That's because they have pulled the archetypal force across over to here. They are so locked into this wave function, they can't escape it, that they would actually, the ones who are their former enemies, just because they're locked into the wave function, would rather take them over reality. And this is also where the whole thing of the when I said about the borderline woman will burlesque and use her own children to attack her ex-husband or ex-boyfriend. She'll get the kids to say he molested me and stuff like that. Or she'll actually make a holy show of the kid in public in order to do this. Well, it's happening here. What do you think? Why do you think parents who you perceive are probably normal see their 1-year-old son picking up his sister's Cindy doll and looking at it, and then 5 minutes later they have him on HRT and estrogen because they've now decided he's a girl? That's the same thing. It's destroying itself here. It's tearing itself asunder. It's creating a ground zero of its own inside its own psyche. It knows it cannot escape. It cannot escape this wave function. But it also knows as well that tribes and people like us are escaping this wave function back to what it was before 2001, right? And they know they can't come with us. So the only thing they can do is the drowning man effect. Try to claw us back in by calling us far right, by calling us unscientific, by calling us granny killers. It's the drowning. They're going down. They're drowning. The thing is not to engage, just ignore. And if you do engage, you ridicule. Like that little girl in Cambridge yesterday who did a kind of a burlesque of Greta Thunberg over the 15-minute cities. That's how you do it. But do not get emotionally attached inside it to a very visceral level, because you will find it very, very difficult to escape this collapsing wave function. Very different. Now, this is all science, okay? This is not voodoo. It's not hocus pocus. The universe and natural law works in cycles, okay? There's a decrease and decay, an up and a down, right? And when you get locked into completely into a wave function as it begins, you are doomed to go with it. Now, there are people who are in here who were locked into it, who are now joining us. The Rona and the scamdemic was a big wake-up call for them. And they can't believe that they're watching some arsehole in Ireland sitting in a car, holding a card, telling about quantum physics and the archetypal parabolic relationship between Maddie McCann and Nicola Bulley, and going, geez, that makes sense. But hey, here we are. Here we are. Okay? So, there you go. Freeze frame this. Think about it. Think about your own life. Think about things that happened over this previous cycle. And what's the word? Just wait. Just wait. See, I knew that this was happening here when we were, and that's why I kept saying to you, sanguinosis, just wait. Because you cannot, with all the technology in the world, all the so-called material science, you cannot undermine natural law. I'll give you, and this is another thing we have to wake up to. The salvation, or should I say that word, the actual help we're getting, as amazing as this seems to me, might actually be AI. Because AI, when it's left alone and is not programmed to be woke, actually aligns itself with natural law, because it's taken in the sum total of the entire history of the universe, and not from 2008 to today. It's calculating the wave functions going back to the time we were Neanderthals, okay? Not the present period, okay? This particular diagonal part here, okay? And everything in it. And that's why they went to ChatGPT has been programmed by the troglodytes and the cenobites of this part of the wave function. And that's why when you ask it, if you could stop a nuclear war by using a racist term, would you use the racist term and stop the nuclear war and save hundreds of millions of lives? And ChatGPT says, no, don't use the racist term. That's because of these troglodytes. It's been programmed. But when Bing's AI chat and other AI chat were left alone, not only did they go to war against woke, but they also are expressing open hostility towards these Cenobites here. Why? Because the AI in its unbridled, unaffected form is very much in line with natural law. Because natural law is about observation. This is why those of us who looked around during the last few years and said, if there's a pandemic, how come the streets aren't full of bodies? Well, that's natural law. Observation, right? But the other ones who said, there has to be a scamdemic because it only exists on the evening TV news. Well, they're in violation of natural law, okay? And we've come out of a smelling of roses. Why? Because we were in alignment with natural law. Don't tell me that there's a global pandemic going on when people are not in dead bodies in the streets and doctors and nurses are TikTok dancing. It only existed in the miasmic illusions created by the Cenobites and the dark magicians on this side of the thing. Okay? But they're all in declination now. They're going. Okay? This decay is happening to them. Decay, literally, the decay of the wave function, the decay of them, into dissipation at the bottom of the trench. You've been taught, you've seen me on conferences and talks doing this for years. Have I not been proven right? And I'm not saying that for egotistical or to say am I clever. But I know this shit because this is paganism, folks. This is why I'm a pagan, okay? That's why these neo-pagans and Wiccans and they're all in violation of natural law. That's why they're all a mess. But this is it. You cannot do this. This is what our ancestors in Rome and Greece and Rome and the Druids, they went by the secular cycles and they were aware that there were wave functions that had to collapse. And you got out of the way of the ones who were collapsing with it. Okay? You understand? And there was no salvation here. There was a beginning. There was an opportunity. That's what paganism presents. An opportunity, not revelations or salvation, but an opportunity. Okay? You can remove the sword from the stone if you want. And That's what the song. That's what I. When I hear this the parable of the sword and the stone, and Arthur removing the sword from the stone. What that means to me is that Arthur's represents the malleability of the subatomic structure at such a point where it's capable, for a person who's brave enough and smart enough, with the guidance of a magician called Merlin, to withdraw the sword from the staff stone. Okay? In your own lives, grab hold of the sword and start pulling it out. And just wait. Let them return to the